it is hard. It is a phenomenon we've never seen before.
Right.
That one person would dominate
every
just the
conversation,
national
every dinner,
for over a decade.
Yeah.
You know, but and I do think you have to fight that. Like I say, if that's your whole personality, is the first thing out of your mouth is, what are we going to do about Donald Trump? I just can't.
Meanwhile,
I am so sad and disappointed by the amount of people who have fallen to right-wing propaganda that is rooted in racism. That's all that video is, of the man going around to the various childcare centers claiming massive fraud here in Minnesota. I care very deeply about where my taxpaying dollars go. It's when the legislation first got passed and I saw how much money was going to be going to childcares, I was livid. I was livid because in it, the legislation, they did not put that childcare centers could not raise their rates more than inflation. And I knew that private equity firms were buying up childcare centers left and right. And it was happening in Minnesota. The childcare that I was previously at, as soon as that legislation got passed, they raised our rates by 10%. We were already paying $40,000 for 2 children in childcare. And then a year after I made a video about how mad I was, they were bought by a private equity firm for millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. Our hard-earned money, when it comes to childcare, a lot of it gets funneled to private equity firms. And if you want to be mad about that, I'm here with you. I'm right here with you, and I would love to have conversations about that. I would love to talk legislation. I would love to talk about the childcare industry. But what you have fallen for is a man going to a dozen childcares when there are over 7,400 childcares here in Minnesota. It doesn't even go to 1% of them.
Yes, for the past few days, a lot is happening in Minnesota after night. I don't know if Nick, how do I pronounce this name? This guy is doing a great job. He went into these areas and did a couple of videos exposing what was going on, and Libras are now claiming racism. I don't understand how, when things like this happen, they will immediately rush and link everything to racism. It is insane. When you take a look at these, the Trump administration announced a freeze on all federal child care payment to the state of Minnesota. This affects approximately $185 million in annual funding through programs like the Child Care Assistance Program, pending investigation into the alleged fraud that is happening in these areas. At a certain point, you wonder why Tim was going off on Elon Musk.
People have been charged in the schemes, mostly Somalis, and more than 60 people have been convicted. Now you have this viral video getting traction online. It's from influencer Nick Shirley, and he visited several daycares, Somali-owned daycares in the Twin Cities, and basically accused them of doing the same thing, running these sham operations where kids didn't show up, but still billed the federal government and collected millions of dollars in Medicaid funds. We visited those sites too, as did state inspectors many times over the last 6 months, and we found the facts on the ground tell a different story. Those daycares, many of them were written up for safety violations, things like maybe busted equipment or staff training issues, but that's not the same as being vigilant. So it's important to put all of this into context. Granted, is indisputably an issue in Minnesota, and next year it's going to turn up the heat continuously on state officials, including Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who's running for re-election. And there are 14 programs, Medicaid-funded programs, that are currently under investigation by state and federal government. But child care is not one of them. Again, this is something we're going to keep following well into next year.
What would you say to Nick Shirley, the YouTuber, if he was standing in front of you right now?
I have nothing against him himself, but I do have something against the rhetoric. It's, if you're going to be a journalist, just have a moral compass. Like, do what you do correctly. If you catch business that no one here is with that, or like we don't support that as a community. I don't support that myself. I was born and raised here. I'm not for like the notion that, hey, a certain batch of somebody got caught, so all of them support it. It's like, no one, if in any community, any mishaps that happen, the rest of the community obviously doesn't want that to happen. It's a stain on all of our names, as you guys can see. We don't want that to happen. We don't take part in that. We don't like that. We don't want that in our communities. But just to say, hey, a certain company got caught, so they must all do it, and I feel like that's what he's doing, I'm not offended.
2 to 10 p.m. may not be your typical daycare hours, so can you explain why it is that you operate during these hours?
The reason for that is we're after school hours. So most of our clients, not most of our clients, all of our clients is after school hours. So schools, earliest dismissal would be 2:15 to 2:30ish, and the latest dismissal would be up to like 4:30ish, 4:40ish. So that's when our kids come to us. We don't have anyone in the morning. We deal with only parents and clients that come to us after school. So that's why ours are 2 to 10 p.m. If we try to do, once again, I'd like to conclude, the YouTuber that was making the claims, you were here earlier today. I came here at 1 o'clock. You were here. Where are you now? You claim.
Yes, this is actually alarming. At a certain point, when I saw these videos, I was like, if you notice, for the past 3 days, I'm not able to report on these topics. I actually want to understand. I wanted to understand exactly what was going on. But from my observations, this is true. If you see Democrat and the mainstream media struggling to counteract things like this, you need to understand why they're doing that. Watching CNN the other time, they are trying to say, oh, this is not true, this is not true. I just want to see what the FBI will find in this place, the end result of it, because this journalist, this guy did a great job. When you want to say it, a lot of people would disagree, or they start unsubscribing, or they don't want to follow you because you simply report facts and truth. If you have been following me, you realize I don't cover any kind of topics. Before I pick up something to post, no, it is really triggering.
Well, a lot of this comes through Health and Human Services. And look, I understand that the assistant, whatever title he was, said, oh, they're taking immediate action. But to be honest with you, Tricia, this has been going on for years. To say they've taken immediate action, that probably should have happened a year ago. This doesn't flow through Homeland Security. It flows through Health and Human Services. But ultimately, it is the responsibility of the governor and the state of Minnesota. But to say they took immediate actions, with all due respect, these reports go back almost 10 years.
No, you're absolutely right, Jason. Either they're culpable or they buried their head in the sand. But fortunately, President Trump, Secretary Noem, and the entire administration, this is an all-hands-on-deck operation. You saw HHS freezing that funding, SBA freezing that funding, FBI's on the ground. We've surged hundreds of officers from Homeland Security investigators.
Yes, if you notice, for about 1 week now, I'm not able to put out videos like I usually do before because this is the end of the year. And sometimes I need to take break. I will report just 1, 2, 3 clips a week. So please bear with me. In January 2026, we are starting back reporting like we used to do before. I want to appreciate the support you have put out, sharing my videos throughout 2025. Looking through history, I had about 30 million views on this channel. That's a lot. And we were able to clock 100,000 followers. I want to appreciate the support. I used to think, oh, I'm a black person. I can create a YouTube channel. People will not like to subscribe. It is from this that I realized skin color doesn't matter. Yeah, if you are truthful in whatever thing you are doing, you are going to make it. Yeah, if someone told me years ago that I'll be able to pull this channel to 100,000 subscribers, I would say it's a lie. I'm grateful. In 2026, I'm going to do better. I see your comment, what you put out about this whole reporting. I put out every day the corrections. I'll put everything together in 2026 to make sure that I report nothing but the truth. thank you guys again. As of the short clips you see at the end, that is for the YT algorithm. You can always skip.
There you go.
$1,500.
Let's see if they get the.
Well,
I want to see them get it.
MAGA's going to break up because of Donald Trump's criticism of Robin.
Can sit at either place. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
You and your husband were friends with Robin Michelle Reiner, and
everybody knew that wasn't true.
A dangerous relative as a likely suspect, a tip that led to her brother Nick. Rob Reiner and Nick had a heated argument the night before at Conan O'Brien's Christmas party, being back on his own. In one interview, she said,
"We should have said nothing." The United States to take this family tragedy in which the president had made no comment.
When people ought to have.
Yeah.
Absolute horror.
That 46% represents 25% of the country.
History,
Trump
by the way.
shutdown?
It is the Trump shutdown. That's what most Americans